Hey guys, welcome back to the Smoke Shack. We are outside here on a very, very rainy day. I don't know if you can see what's going on in the background or even hear it. In fact, I'm getting a little wet just sitting here. Anyway, we got a very special episode of Two Perspectives today. We got a company that you most likely have not heard of before. Very, very boutique brand making cigars out of the Dominican Republic, the AT Fields. This is AT Fields Select Corojo. I also have the Select Connecticut and the Select Maduro. We met AT Fields in Tampa during Tampa Cigar Week. He had his cigars there during one of our events. In fact, this Corojo we had paired with a rum. I can't even think of the rum right now. I will probably have it to you here by the end of the episode. But we had that thing paired with the rum, and wow, really brought out a lot of the spices here in this cigar. I was kind of hoping Connor was going to pick another one in the line, either the Connecticut or the Maduro, for two reasons. One, I had this one in the past, but number two, I have a little nick here in my wrapper from the travel from Tampa to Pittsburgh. The cigar got nicked. So I really hope that that does not affect the draw or the performance here on the cigar. If it does, it is an issue at all, I'm going to switch over to another one of the cigars just to give the cigar its full justice, because this isn't one that I would typically pick up, but it is my only one that I have of the Corojo. So if it does go bad, I will put it out. Anyway, getting into the cigar itself, again, the Select Corojo. This is a 6x54 Toro, Dominican Republic Puro, complete Dominican Republic. So wrapper, binder, filler, everything from the Dominican Republic, and everything is aged 10 years. So really a unique product here for a Dominican aged 10 years tobacco. Really looking forward to getting into this cigar. For the craftsmanship score here, I've got an 8 out of 10 here for the presentation on the cigar. I really like that purple and gold. It just looks very, very regal, and I really do like that gold band on the bottom, or that gold ribbon. Really matches well with the hue of this wrapper. Just really pops. Construction, 9 out of 10. The only issue that I have is with down here on the ribbon. It was put on a little too tight. The cigar expanded everywhere else and not there. It was a little too constricted. So we do have, it looks like a stretched wrapper down there at the bottom. So our first inch, maybe half inch, could be affected just because of that. But otherwise, very, very good construction here. Very well rolled, or evenly rolled. Good firm spring to this cigar, and that cap on top looks fantastic. The color here I have as an 8 out of 10, extremely robust there on the toe, but the wrapper itself does have a couple of what I would call water spots. It's just not one shade throughout. We have a little bit of different colors peeking through. Not too much of it though, so an 8 out of 10. This particular Vitola is a 9 out of 10 for me. I really like the Toro size. The 6x54 is one of my favorites. I think the 6x52 would give me a 10 out of 10, but again, very personal score there at the end. 1.69 for the craftsmanship score of the cigar. Gonna go ahead and cut it, light it open. Or wait, cut it open and light it up. That's what I meant. Cigar starts off with a creamy oak, very, very creamy here, with even a little bit of like a caramel in the background. Seems to be a subtle amount of pepper that wants to break through here, here in the initial notes. Gonna go ahead and smoke it down towards the end of the first third, and then catch you back up with my thoughts. So far, got a lot of good flavor out of this stick. Looking forward to seeing how that flavor evolves here throughout the smoke. Gonna send it over to Connor now for his thoughts.
Hey everyone, welcome back here to the Smoke Shack. Connor bringing you the AT Fields full Dominican Puro here. Thank you, Steve, for introducing this cigar. Getting right into the scoring here for the craftsmanship. Presentation I have at an 8 out of 10. To me, it's just missing something. I'm not a huge fan of the footband on this one. It's just the gold. It doesn't really pop on here, and there's the tape job. It's like really glossy on this side and it kind of like crinkled on the other side. I'm being very nitpicky here when I'm saying an 8 out of 10. It looks very nice, but there's just something where it doesn't seem like it matches the full color of the wrapper here. The construction I have at a 7 out of 10. Slightly, ever so slightly bumpy. There is a hole in the cap there and just a couple of nicks on the wrapper here. However, the color, I have it as a 6 out of 10, man. It's just, it looks kind of like white to me or something. Like, I love the toothiness of it, but it just looks like it's bled out or something kind of weird like that. Vitola, though, 8 out of 10. It's the Toro 6x54. It just looks a little thicker and a little longer than that. Again, it's a very good score here, 8 out of 10. I do like the Robusta size. That is why it's not perfect. A very sweet barnyard. Kind of like a honey there off of the wrapper. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. That is all raisin there on the dry draw. Take this footband off here. It's funny, when I first started reviewing these, I really did like the footband. I thought it was like extra craftsmanship. Since then, they've sort of gotten like to be a bit much for me. I'm not as big of a fan. I'm not really sure why that changed, but I wasn't expecting that. It's a very dry, peppery coffee, peppery, pretty tasty. As you can see, there is a little bit of an issue there with the wrapper, but I'm gonna go ahead, smoke this down. We'll see what Steve thinks about the first third, and I will catch you back here with my thoughts on the first third.
Bringing you back in for the first third of the cigar here. The flavor profile is very oaky. Some molasses in here as well. And that cream, a little bit more subtle in the background, as well as some pepper, some cayenne pepper that's really popping out there. It's a little bit more subtle compared to the oak and that molasses. Those two are very strong here in that opening third. So very, very sweet here. Got the dry notes here there from the oak and then a little bit of pepper spice. Really liking this opening third. Very, very well balanced in this cigar. Intensity or richness of flavor here I have as a 5 out of 10. Very, very mild on the strength to start here. So it is punching well above its weight class there, but it's still not super rich in flavor. Enjoyability, though, is a 9 out of 10. Extremely well balanced. Really the only thing that would make this more enjoyable cigar is a little bit richer flavor in my mind, but very, very well balanced. It's got, it's very, very Dominican-like with the spices and that wood. Very tasty. Complexity, an 8 out of 10. It is perfectly balanced, but I can't really give much more than an 8 because of the 4 flavors in the flavor profile. If we added another flavor, I'd give it a 10 here for that complexity, but an 8 out of 10 here is about as high as it can get for those 4 flavor profiles. So very, very nice there. The finish, probably the only thing that was really lacking was the finish and then the richness of flavor throughout the whole first third of the cigar. The finish, just not super rich in flavor. It's got a good length to it, but it mellows out rather fast. It's just not super rich out of the gate. So as we smoke this thing down, I see that picking up as well as that intensity. So not a whole lot to knock here, especially since it's more on the mild side here to start. The burn performance here really got nothing to knock. 10s, 8s, and 9s across the board. The draw is a perfect 10 out of 10. Consistency, or our char line here, is an 8 out of 10. Combustion is a 9 out of 10. Got the ash structure as a 9 out of 10. As you can see, very, very good looking ash here. Did happen to fall off because I banged it on the ashtray and it popped off, obviously. Ash color also looks great, 8 out of 10. Smoke assessment, 10s, 9s, and 1/8 in there. The 8 was that mouthfeel. Just don't feel like I'm getting a whole lot on the sides of my mouth, but other than that, getting a lot of flavor throughout. And the aroma is a 9 out of 10. I think that was something to highlight because this oaky aroma that's coming off the cigar is very, very nice. Really like that touch here on the cigar. Opening third is an 8.29 for me. If you'd like to see any of those intricate scores there in the smoke assessment, you can check them out at the end of the video. Gonna kick it over now to Connor for his first third.
Bringing you back in here at the end of the first third. I apologize, the ash fell off just before I hit record here. The strength here is about a 4 or 5 out of 10, leaning on the 4 side because it is the first third here. The flavor profile, I got like 3 flavors. The intensity of the espresso is the main flavor. It has that bitter espresso flavor. And there's like a creamy, peppery mix going on there, like a white pepper with that espresso. So I do have the intensity at a 9 out of 10 because it is very bitter espresso. However, the enjoyability here is a 7 out of 10 just because I'm not a huge fan of that bitterness in my espresso in my cigars. I do love espresso, just not in my cigars, and that is a personal thing. Complexity here at a 7 out of 10. I got like 3 main flavors, and that espresso is really overpowering on the other 2. With a finish of a 9 out of 10 though, because it really does coat the entire palate here. Burn performance, draw is a 9 out of 10, just a hair tight. Very consistent though, 10 out of 10. The combustion I have at a 7 out of 10. It gets warm about here. And as you can see there, the burn line is just kind of wavy. Ash structure, an 8 out of 10. It was pretty tight until it just fell off. I didn't really expect it to, but it did. Ash color though, 9 out of 10. I love when I can see the toothiness still there in the ash. Getting into the smoking assessment, this thing, it is like almost perfect, but it's not perfect. Like, it has the backbone to be excellent, but I have an 8 for the resting smoke, drawing smoke, mouthfeel, and temperature here. You know, it's like I said, it's very close, but it's not perfect, so 8 out of 10 is there. However, the aroma in the room, it is very strong on that, like, barnyard hay, like a fresh barnyard hay though. 10 out of 10 there for the aroma, bringing that first third score to a 7.81. Again, it has the backbone to be fantastic if there was just a little less bitterness and another flavor profile present there in the first third. So I'm gonna go ahead, smoke this down, and we'll see what Steve's thoughts are on his second third, and then I'll see you back here with my thoughts on my second third.
Hey guys, bringing you back in towards the end of the second third here of the cigar. The flavor profile really does not change up a whole lot. It does add the flavor of anise or a licorice here in this middle third, but just becomes a lot more strong with all those flavor notes. The molasses, the cayenne pepper, and the oak, along with now the anise here in this cigar. Very, or at least comparatively to the last third, it's very, very rich. It's really peaked itself up there in the richness of flavor. Still not very strong. I would still say it's more on the mild medium, maybe a 4 out of 10 here on that strength. Intensity though, 7 out of 10 here for the richness of flavor. Very, very intense. Enjoyability is a 9 out of 10. The only reason I knock it here is because the anise, I'm just not a fan of that in the cigar. It's very rich here. I like that the flavors are a lot more rich here in this third, but there's that anise. It's a little bit more sharp. Not a huge fan of that one. Complexity, 8 out of 10 here. Really, really like this. I think it's very, very well balanced. The anise does pop a little bit more than the others, but again, everything's rather rich. You got a lot of pepper in here. Good balance there with the oak as well. Finish, an 8 out of 10. The finish is kind of unique here. I'm getting two different flavors in the finish. I got, early on, I had the molasses as my finish. Now as I'm getting towards the end of the second third, I have more of a pepper on the finish, but it has been kind of changing back and forth as we're getting close to the end of the second third. As in, every other puff, it's changing from that pepper finish or that molasses finish, which is just unique. I usually just get one finish, one flavor, but I'm getting two different things. So I'm knocking it a little bit there, but it's also not super rich there on the finish. It's a lot more rich than it has been, and it's a lot more long than it has been, but still an 8 out of 10. Not horrible here for that finish. Draw is a 10 out of 10. My consistency or char line does peak up here to a 9 out of 10 on the cigar. Ash structure, I think it just is looking a little bit bent, but other than that, very, very solid here for that structure. A 7 out of 10. And then the color, an 8 out of 10. Just a little bit of black spots in that ash. Smoke assessment also, everything kind of goes up here because we got 10s and 9s across the board. You can check them out at the end of the episode. 8.56 here for the middle third. Very, very enjoyable here for this middle third. Gonna look forward to smoking into the final third here. Kicking it now over to Connor for his thoughts.
All right, bringing you back in here for the second third. The intensity I still have at a... Actually, I am kicking up to a full 4 out of 10 there, mild to medium. Very evenly delivered in strength. The intensity has slightly went down. I'm getting more of cocoa, a black walnut, and a really strong cedar, but it's not as profound as in the first third with that bitter espresso flavor. However, the enjoyability has went up to a 10 out of 10. I am a much bigger fan of those flavors. However, the complexity here, they are very well balanced in harmony with each other. I'm just missing like 2 more notes to make that a perfect 10 out of 10. The finish is very good though, 10 out of 10. Burn performance, the draw and consistency are very good. Again, the combustion and ash structure are slightly lower with 7s. Ash color is at an 8. And then same thing with that smoking assessment as in the first third. It has the backbones to be fantastic. It's just slightly off in everything. The aroma has went down just a hair, although it's been pouring down rain here in Western PA for like a week now. So that kind of muskiness really does damper the aroma here. The temperature has picked up a bit though. It was pretty darn good in the first third. I have it at a 7 here. It's just a little warm for a second third for me. So I'm going to go ahead, smoke this down, see what Steve has to say, and I'll see you back here with my thoughts on the final third and the overall score here.
Hey guys, bringing you back in for the final third here of this cigar. The flavor profile doesn't change up a whole lot here, but is just, it's rather balanced and rich. It's phenomenal. It's delicious here in the final third. I do get an addition of leather here in the final third and a change to that pepper note. So we got leather, oak, black pepper now instead of that cayenne, that spicy cayenne pepper, and the opening in middle third. Molasses and still that anise in this final third. Very, very enjoyable. Intensity still at a 7 out of 10 here for that richness of flavor. Enjoyability though, a 10 out of 10. This thing is phenomenal here in the final third. Complexity is an 8 out of 10. Might have been a little bit harsh there, but the balance is just slightly off here in the final third. And then the anise it's just a little stronger than the others. Pepper's nice in the background. That oak flavor throughout this whole cigar has been phenomenal. Finish here in the final third, a 9 out of 10. It's finally peaking up in richness of flavor and in that length as well. The draw I have as a 10 out of 10. Consistency, a 9 out of 10. As you can see, very, very consistent char line there. Just a little peak or a little bit of a hill there on that char line. 9 out of 10 on the combustion. Ash structure, an 8 out of 10. Looks great. Ash color does have some black spots here, but other than that, a good light gray throughout this ash. 8 out of 10. My smoke assessment is all 9s and 10s across the board. I think the one thing that I would really like to pick out is the aroma. The aroma has been phenomenal throughout this cigar. Very oaky. It's great. You can really tell that there's an oak there. It's lingering around. It's phenomenal. 8.85 for the final third. Was the best third out of the whole cigar. In fact, we slowly builded throughout the whole cigar, just like the flavor or the strength built throughout this cigar as well, and the richness of flavor built throughout this cigar as well. In fact, I have the strength actually coming in here at a 5 out of 10 here, so a perfect medium here on the strength of this cigar. I actually think it's more of a 4.5, rounding it up to the 5 though. So just a very strong mild to medium if you are to categorize it as that. I'm going to categorize it though as a little bit more on the medium side. Maybe it is a little bit more on the mild side of that medium, but still it's medium here. Very enjoyable throughout this cigar. Breaking you down through the thirds, 8.29 for the opening third. Middle third was an 8.56. Then the final third, an 8.85. Giving the final score of this cigar an 8.57. Really a phenomenal smoke throughout. It didn't evolve a whole lot, but the flavor profile was very, very well balanced throughout this whole cigar and punched well above its strength throughout the whole thing. I think the aroma is one of the things that pops on this cigar. It's different than, all these other cigars. I'm getting that oak note off of the aroma, and it's very, very strong, very pronounced, very pungent, very delicious there on the nostrils. Really, really like that throughout this whole cigar. Kind of wish it kind of had a little bit more of a percentage point to help the cigar out a little bit more. I mean, not that it needed too much help. An 8.57 is a fantastic final score, but that aroma was just something special here in this cigar. I think the cayenne pepper as well, very nice touch. It's got good strength in the middle. Pair this well with a rum or something with a little bit more spice in it, and it's really going to take those spicy notes to the next level. It's going to be very, very spicy in your mouth. I really like that subtle hint of pepper in the background here, but that you can also really amp it up if you were to pair it with something a little bit more peppery as far as the drink goes. Very, very enjoyable cigar. I really enjoyed this. Glad that we brought it here onto the channel. Looking forward to seeing what Connor's final score is. In fact, I'm going to send it over to him right now.
Bringing you back in here with my thoughts on that final third here. As far as the intensity, it stayed at a 5 out of 10, a very medium on that scale from mild to medium to full. The flavor profiles that I was getting there in the final third were like a charred oak, campfire, charred oak and campfire, maybe a hint of like a roasted marshmallow on there, but that nuttiness was really the intense main flavor profile there in that final third. Not a whole lot changed score-wise between the thirds, except the intensity and the enjoyability. The enjoyability remained the same. The ash color did take a hair down, but the smoking assessment did get much better. I don't know if you saw that at the end of the second third there, the wrapper had cracked pretty good, right around where I pulled the band off. However, that really didn't affect the smoking assessment at all. The resting smoke it did. The resting smoke was kind of all over the place and wild, but the drawing smoke, mouthfeel, and temperature were all fantastic there in the final third. The temperature was absolutely ideal for a final third of a cigar. Running through my flavors here, scores here. 7.81 in the first third, 8.46 in the second third, and an 8.68 in the final third, with a craftsmanship score of a 1.46, bringing the overall score up to an 8.32. Very enjoyable cigar here. It did improve throughout all three thirds, which is what you really like to see. Mixing this with something as far as pairing, I think a latte, something with caramel would really make these flavors pop out well. So go ahead, kick this back over to Steve to close this out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time here on the Smoke Shack.
Hey guys, yeah, so no price per point score here for this cigar because I'm not really sure exactly what these things MSRP for, as they are a little bit more on the boutique side. So if you would like to get information on this, leave me a comment here and I can get you in touch with AT Fields and you guys can learn how to acquire any of these cigars if you're looking to get any of them. Again, we smoked the Corojo today, but we also have the Connecticut and the Maduro in the line. We will get to those two eventually as well because this is a very, very good cigar. Extremely well constructed throughout, and then the flavors were great as well, as I highlighted. We really appreciate you guys watching the show. Sorry that we've not been posting too many videos lately. We had a lot of personal stuff going on with weddings and Connor taking his vacation honeymoon, and then me racing and just been crazy here in the summer. So hopefully we will get back to posting more videos for you here soon. We do have the US Open this week that we're both volunteering at, so that might take a little time away from just editing videos and stuff, but we are going to get back to giving you guys more daily content. So leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll see you next time here on the Smoke Shack.